lap siding so that it looks like a traditional clapboard siding is no longer available. And this profile, which with the groove is available, or that profile. And we feel quite strongly that the traditional lap siding is important to the look of a historic house, and that these more modern sort of profiles. Actually, James and Juhi's office has this siding with this profile on it, and it gives it quite a modern look, not like traditional lap siding. So the trim of the house will continue to be this because the trim is still available. And this is actually wood. This diamond coat, the way it is made, it's crushed. Those are the specifics. And what we suggest is this lapped siding.
Okay. First of all, the note on the approved set says siding at original house to match existing. See also sketch 6A 501 cedar shiplap boards. So
I will have to produce the documentation, but the rep came, spoke to Kathleen, and
well, agreed,
Okay.
and we're, you know, we agreed that that other material was approved for the new construction. But the original house was supposed to go back to the wood siding to match the original.
that is not my recollection of it, and I will have to look through my records.
Okay. Because we can talk about changing the selection for the siding of everything else, but I do believe you have, you know, for example, here, you have all of the various catalog of different siding materials and so
Right.
on.
What was the date of the approval, the original approval?
Can you get my? Sorry. There's lots of colors, lots of pieces.
Well, I guess one of the concerns that I would have is that this is not a paintable finish. This was a paintable finish. And so the idea being that when you're painting the various structures, it's all looks consistent, as opposed to this, which would never be painted. I mean, you wouldn't paint over this.
No,
Right.
you choose a color and it comes painted. And it's got a 50-year guarantee. And I couldn't bring more samples, but from 10
Well,
yards away, it's
but-
indistinguishable from wood, because I mean, you can see, it is wood.
Well, it's chipboard.
This is, I just want to say, this was a approval from January, and it's called out the same thing. It says that this is cedar, and this is going to be cedar for boral as an alternative.
And it was approved in November.
November 2018?
Yep.
Or is it?
So, Because I think when we originally spoke to you and to Tilly, it was that the Boral was more expensive than the cedar, right? Was that the original conversation we were having? Because I think he was proposing using the composite material on the new addition, but there was a concern about whether it would be more cost effective to use new cedar on everything. That's my only recollection of a change of materials between the two volumes.
The reason that sticks in my mind is because we're talking about a restoration of the historic building. I mean, essentially, we allowed you to knock down an addition which was not part of the original, so that the original volume could be restored. And I have a hard time, in other words, how would you have this, let's say, and if I remember correctly, the discussion was that there was a lot of the existing siding that was still in good shape and they were gonna reuse
There's
it.
nothing, so these are photographs. What has happened to the house is that all the, there were tremendous number of rotten beams. Both these photographs show you, we had to, when we removed the siding, we had to remove all of the noggings. And if you see all these light wood,
Mhm.
are all the beams that were rotten. So on 4 sides of the house, we had to do significant construction. What this is a photograph of are the supporting beams to the house, and these are showing that the house had to be jacked up and the beams had to be replaced, and that happened on all 4 sides. You can see there too. So the nogging had to be removed, it had to be treated for rot and termites, and all, major reconstruction had to be done for the house not to fall apart, because the beams were, many beams were rotten. So nothing could be salvaged because the actual structural integrity of the house was threatened.
Okay.
So that's sort of the process that we've been going through in terms of.
Yeah, the November additional approvals, November 2018, also say install solid cedar shiplap boards plus or minus 5-inch exposure to match siding found under existing siding.
But
Doesn't, where on the new building, it says the alternative is the Boral.
The alternative.
I mean, I agree that having the stacked,
The traditional lap look.
yeah,
is-
the lap look is definitely gonna be more appropriate on the new edition. I'm a little less excited about it being a perma-finish material, because this was paintable, which was part of the discussion that we had about it. Which one do you want?
And just looking for some photographs of what was.
Yeah, the finish is the diamond coat, which is what you're
That's
talking
correct.
about.
Right, which is what this is.
And the width is more like 6 inches, where it was 5 inches specified on the drawing.
It comes in,
It comes in a 6 and an 8.
but then what, since there's an inch overlap, this is 5, like, part that shows. This is 6.
Oh, I see. The entire board is 5.84, and then there's the overlap.
And the exposure is 5.
Well, and the original construction does in fact show shiplap, right?
No, it's not shiplap. Shiplap is the straight side. The lap is what the original.
But the original construction is lapped, just like this.
Lap.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
lapped, it's not, because shiplap, if you,
Shiplap is-
shiplap is this, that's
Yeah.
shiplap, absolutely. if you go look, this is
I'll bet you
shiplap.
$1,000.
We've been
No,
looking
it's
at, it's not,
Okay,
this is
all right.
shiplap.
Sure.
When you
But-
have two
but
pieces
you've
All right.
together.
shiplap.
The terminology notwithstanding, the
Right.
original,
Was this.
Was this
This,
lap
is this.
siding, lap
Okay.
siding, yes, absolutely, like all colonial houses have.
Okay.
And what finishes does it come in other than the diamond coat? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is the finish that it comes in.
so it doesn't come in a paintable version.
It does not. And
Okay.
the benefits to the homeowner is that it is wood, looks like wood, and has a 30-year guarantee for the paint and a 50-year guarantee for function and structure.
Right,
And,
right. But if it's not paintable, then it's really a 30-year guarantee, that's all they guarantee with paint. And what is?
oh, it is paintable, it just doesn't, it comes painted. It is
Oh, I see.
paintable.
It is paintable.
But it comes painted.
But it comes pre-painted.
It is. And the reason that it has this long life is that what causes wood paint to bubble and blister is the water content of wood.
Right.
Because the wood here is squished, all the water is removed from it, which makes it essentially not bubble or blister or peel. And
With
gives it its
that
longevity.
heavy dose of glue,
Mhm.
it's all
Resin,
glue.
yeah.
It's glue, wood chips.
And what's the issue with doing cedar on the historic volume?
I think the issue is maintenance and a combination of maintenance and costs and the reconstruction of the house. You know, set us back $300,000. I mean, that's literally what it costs to rebuild the entire house, which is not a little. I mean, I can give you more pictures, but I think you can get the idea from those. We needed to, every beam got replaced, you can see, all these beams. The entire house had to be rebuilt.
What we've done is we've at a great expense done this for this house so that the interior of the house can be preserved. The exterior of the house was not savable. We spent $300,000 to preserve the
Just
interior of the
doing
house.
this, just rebuilding the entire
outside
house.
needs support, and this will support the outside of the house because the brick nogging is gone, so therefore a lot of the structural integrity of the house is gone. And this needs to be shored up as much as possible. A lot of this has to do with increasing structural integrity of the house, which in fact was far less solid than we thought it was.
Well, all right, except here's the thing. Our purview is not the interior, our purview is the exterior. When you undertook this project, we had no idea what was going on. And as part of the process of reviewing and approving this stuff, we agreed to a material on the outside which was to match what was there before, which was there historically. Now you're proposing replacing it with something other than that, and I don't think I would be in favor of it because I think that this is one of the truly historic buildings. Our village has a historic district, but not all of the buildings are equally historic. There are a lot of buildings which just, they're in the district because it was built at a certain period. This is a historic building. This is one that has roots to how the village was formed, roots to American history. And I don't, at this particular point, I don't see, I don't accept your rationale. I understand that certainly the renovation was a lot more expensive than what you had anticipated. So I think that this is, you're now raising an issue which, because I can tell you right now, if I had to vote on it today, it would be no. There's only 3 of us, and you need 3 votes to get an approval. So I would think that I would suggest that you come back on the 28th and make a pitch to the full board and see if you can get 3 votes.
How do you feel about the, this alternative composite material compared to the other composite material on the new line?
Well, I don't especially like it because, you know, it's not paintable. I mean, the whole idea as far as the other material was that, obviously, the historic house was wood and it was paintable, and that would be paintable. You know, it'd probably age a little bit differently, but it was still paintable. So, you know, that troubles me. I'd have to think about it a little bit more because this is, you know, about as close as you're going to get to, you know, vinyl siding. Because I haven't looked at the catalog information on this. But is this paint or is this vinyl finish?
Paint.
Paint.
It's pre-painted.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's paint.
So I would have a little bit of, I'd have to think about it. The reason I'd have to think about it is because the addition that you're proposing, that you're building, is new construction. You have a lot more leeway there.
Mm-hmm.
Historic building, I just have a hard time.
When it
providing
comes
a goal.
when it comes to finding an appropriate siding for the addition and just for the addition, ignoring the historic volume, are we in agreement that the priority should be this type of an overlapping profile?
I have no.
Because potentially, I'm just saying, they could use the originally proposed material, which is paintable, but the profile would be totally different.
I have no problem with the profile. I mean, the lap, whether it's chip lap, regular lap, the lap configuration, I have no problem. And I'm willing to provide to give a lot of leeway as far as the material. I think that I'd have to do a little bit of research and see what sort of siding is in fact available. But I mean, have you looked at hardy board?
Yes, it looks, this has been approved by other historic boards, and from a distance, this looks like wood. Hardy board kind of looks like hardy board. It doesn't give it an actual historic, it hasn't been approved in, I mean, it gives houses a very modern look, and if you don't have this kind of lap siding, if you have this sort of siding, this sort of profile, this is the exact profile that is on James and Julie's office, and if you drive by, it gives it a very modern look. It does not give it a traditional.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
What?
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not this, but it is a notched, we went up to your
It was
thing
a
and asked
novelty-
them.
it's a
It's the
novelty
novelty,
board.
and
Yes.
it has a,
That's not a novelty siding.
okay, but it gives it a very modern look. It does not give it a traditional.
You're
Carpet.
wrong because I know we did research on hardy board. Hardy board has been accepted in a lot of different historic.
You'd be happy with hardy board?
Well, hardy board, you can get hardy board in the lap configuration.
Yep.
So, and it's paintable.
Okay, we thought this was actually wood and thought this was better than hardy wood, but if the board has previously approved hardy board, we'll be happy to look into it.
Plywood and chipboard come in a lot of different configurations. The thing that concerns me is that it has been my experience, and I may be wrong on this, is that the bigger the chips, the less, the lower the quality of the board. Because you can get MDF, which is medium density fiber board.
What is this, like OSB?
Huh?
What is this, like OSB?
Yeah, I mean, look how big the chips are. you know, I would have to do a little bit independent research on this before I'd be willing to accept it.
Okay.
All right? And so I think that certainly when it comes to the main house, I'll open it up to other.
Well, can I comment? Number one, you've approved Tesla tiles on the new house.
Excuse me?
You've approved Tesla tiles on the new house.
Okay.
And you've also approved aluminum sided windows on this new house. So I don't think.
On the
your-
old house, you mean?
On the old house. So I don't think your logic really follows through if you've already approved modern innovations for the rest of the old house.
It's not a question of modern or innovations, I mean, you know,
Well, they
look at.
It looks like an old house.
Right, and the thing is that I don't think that this looks like the siding that was there. And ultimately, I think, let's,
Did this come from a Diamond Coat rep, or through your contractor, or through the architect?
Sorry, Sean, I don't understand the question.
I mean,
How did I find this material?
Yeah, did you get this
We,
from somebody?
what, this?
No, just the samples and everything. I'm just wondering if there's any way that between now and when we meet again, if there's a way that we could find out whether there's any examples of this locally where we could see it installed.
I can look into that. This is their smooth. This is a new look. They have a previously existing product, which
It's like grain.
it's grained and it looks
Yeah.
fake.
Yeah.
And it's not, we wouldn't consider it because the grain looks fake.
Okay.
It's not attractive.
But this isn't something
So-
that like Tilly
so-
or Tom or somebody
No.
recommended? Okay.
No, so I actually asked because we wanted to go see a house locally and there is none with this.
With the smooth look, yeah.
I can get you,
No, that's
pictures.
fine. I mean, if neither of them have installed it, that was just my only question.
okay. What we approved were asphalt shingles, which, you know, if you want to hold me to my words, I don't think they had asphalt shingles back in the 1800s. But the thing is that is sort of an acknowledgement that there are certain things which are not available, and certain things which would not be recommended. I would assume that would be slate, and if we had wanted to, I think we would be on solid ground to call for slate. But obviously that would be a significant increase in cost. And the same thing as far as the windows. The windows, the issue is you are going to be having to heat this, and you know we can either keep the original windows and force you to do overhauls of the existing windows, or we can allow you to replace them with modern windows which were airtight. Now, in historic preservation, there are things called contributing the
What?
the
Defining,
character defining
aspects of the
features,
building.
character defining features, and certainly the siding is one. And so, like I said, I would not approve it, so certainly what you're recommending is not gonna fly tonight. I think.
So I just have a question about hardy board. Have you approved hardy board for other historic houses?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And would you approve hardy board for both the old and the new house, or was this
No, I
something
mean,
that
right
was-
now, my feeling is that, again, this is one of the very historic buildings in the village. And I would hate to see it go down the road of, it just got too expensive. I think that, like I said, I'm willing to give you a lot of leeway when it comes to the addition, because that's all new construction, but this is, the whole point of what we were doing is because we were dealing with a nationally historic structure.
Are you aware of any product that does not need maintenance that can be approved for the restoration of a historic house?
Well, I guess my question to you is that, are you concerned about maintenance or cost?
I think we're concerned about maintenance, ongoing maintenance, like.
Well, the
A
issue
house,
is.
as you know, is on a bluff. It's exposed to sun, wind, and rain, and is in a very precarious position and will need a lot of maintenance. And our main thought was to try to find a product that does not need maintenance.
I think that wood siding in and of itself, you're not gonna get anything which is maintenance free. Even with that, you're gonna have maintenance that's gonna have to get done. Now, that's part and parcel with wood siding. And that was what we had voted to approve, is the wood siding. So I don't know what else I can tell you, because certainly, any thoughts? I mean, I think you understand.
I agree with what you are getting at, which is, if it comes down to obviously the original alternative for the modern volume for the addition is no longer available. If it comes down to there being a change in material from the historic volume to the addition, I'd be willing to look at alternative composites for the addition. I feel strongly that we should maintain the wood on the historic volume and just the historic volume, or possibly do wood on both if that's possible, but I'm not comfortable with putting a composite on the historic volume. But I am only one of 5 people on the board. I think to Al's point, if you want to do a little bit more research and figure out, kind of how to, if you are going to be using 2 materials, how they would be separated and everything, and we can have a conversation about that in a couple weeks. Or the alternative would just be doing, everything in wood, which was approved on the historic and the addition, but it sounds like that's not the road that you want to go down. So we can talk about it with the full board.
I think in particular because this building is really one of the oldest existing houses in the village, and it has so many connections to the very founding of the village, to the families that lived here. It is a building.
We get it, we just spent
Yeah, I know.
$300,000 so that it
No.
wouldn't crumble.
Yeah,
And
I
if
know.
we hadn't, the whole thing would crumble and fall
I
down.
mean, if it wasn't for us, this building would be falling down.
It was literally falling
And
down and
I
rotting,
think
so it's
we
not
need
that
a
we
little-
don't
a little space
understand
from your
that
end.
this
I
is
think
not,
You are being overly aggressive towards us. And
I-
I don't think, no, let me talk for a
Okay,
minute.
sorry.
I do not think your attitude and the way that you've been dealing with us has been fair. I think you've been very, very authoritarian in an unstructured and unfair and unkind way. And I feel very resentful at the way that we have had to spend a lot of money and have actually gone out of our way to make sure this building will be absolutely pristine and as it was. We've kept structures in it. We brought it back to its original. We spent a lot of money, and I don't feel we've had much help from this board.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
And I feel
but-
very strongly that way.
Well, I feel very strongly that we have followed procedures as was laid out for us.
What
And-
procedure? What is the handbook for your procedures? You have no handbook. It's just, I think. I've heard so much, I think.
No. We
Yes.
have design standards and.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
You just come off the top of your head. And you just come up the top of your head. No, I've had it with these people.
Well,
You know, a lot of our process has to do with government regulations that are imposed upon us. We are not some not-for-profit group someplace. We are an agency of government. And the whole secret process that we had to go through, which I understand is.
It was
onerous.
totally unnecessary.
It's not
It
unnecessary.
was totally unnecessary.
It is.
we
Because
had a
it's a lot
village
of money
attorney
and it was
telling us that
totally
we had to go through that process.
No, you did not.
Yes, we did.
No, you
Oh,
did not.
I'm sorry. I don't think you understand the
We
laws
do.
of the
We've
state of
been
New
through
York.
I've just had it with these people.
Be that as it may, I think that we are not in a position to vote on this change right now. I think that we should table it until our next session on the 28th.
Well, no. Do you want us to vote on this?
No, because all three of you have made it clear that you're gonna say no. So
That's
I
right.
think I'm actually smart enough to figure that out.
Okay, so.
Then I'll get three no's and that's not
Reschedule
gonna
you
be
for the
helpful.
28th?
I would like some clarification on
Sorry,
what your thoughts are.
before you say that, I
Hardy
just
Board.
wanted to say, we could, if the applicant so desires, vote on whether or not this is an acceptable replacement for the Boral on the modern volume only.
I would.
Unless that vote will also fail, in which case we don't need to vote on that, but.
I would like to see more information on that particular thing.
You
before
sound
I-
like you feel quite strongly that this is not as nice as Hardy Board.
I,
We thought this was much, much nicer than Hardy Board, and it feels nicer, it's actually wood. Carpenters and people who worked with it and said that Hardy Board is kind of, it's cement basically.
Right, it's
And
a-
this works like wood. And so people who use this have said,
Right, because this is OSB essentially with a coating on it. And so it's a substitute for plywood. And so therefore, that's why they're comfortable working with it, because it's used in the industry quite a bit. So, but the thing is that I would not be prepared to vote for that today.
Even on the, just on
Right,
the
I would,
addition.
do you have catalog information on this? That you
Um,
can email me?
yeah, sure.
All right,
I
please do.
can send you the catalog on this product. And, oh, I guess I didn't, we got distracted. Tell me what your views are on Hardy Board, what houses you have approved it for?
Oh, well, we've approved it for some other buildings,
The only
right?
thing that I can think of recently was the new construction of 126, but I'm sure Kathleen, who has a much better memory, could tell me next week.
Well, we had a lot of Hardy Board, I think, also in the Butterfield proposal. But that's all
But that's
modern
new
new
construction
construction.
But
too. I
that's
know
the
that
thing on the hill.
11 High
That's the
Street,
thing with where the
By the
house
post
used to
office.
be.
or
15
9,
High Street.
9,
15 High Street.
right, that was also new construction. A part of the back addition at 19 High Street is Hardy Board, which is a historic, which is a new addition on a historic structure.
Well,
I'll have to
but
figure it out.
typically, that's where we've approved it, is where it's new construction.
Yeah, I can't think of anything in the past couple of years where a historic building has been re-sited in Hardy Board.
Right.
Because anytime that somebody's like asked to take aluminum siding off of a house, you know, not any time, the 2 times that I can think of, the original siding was actually in good enough condition to be repaired, so they didn't have to re-side it, like on Fair Street. But we can find, we'll figure it out.
All right. So can you talk to Kathleen, make a list.
Yes.
Send it over to, Mary Ann.
So the Hardy Board, would it be a question of you might approve it for the new construction, or you would also consider it for the original house?
Well, certainly I would consider it for new construction. For the original, I still feel it should be wood.
Okay. Is there anything else out there that I'm not aware of that has less maintenance than cedar siding that you're aware of as an architect, that provides an appropriate historic profile? I'm not
I
wedded to
can't-
this thing in particular. I'd like to not have to deal with it.
Yeah, I can't think of
Every
anything
5 to
off the
10
top of
years.
my head.
If when we come back, if somebody has any knowledge of some other material that, so, you wanna add these to the file?
When our clients ask for wood, because they prefer wood, but ask for less maintenance solution, we usually recommend wood siding on a rain screen arrangement so that it breathes and it can dry out better. And also we recommend staining over painting, and staining using kind of a opaque staining is almost like painting, so they recommend
Right,
like
except it, yeah.
like semi-translucent or translucent stain.
Julia raises a good point. Staining is typically absorbed into the wood, whereas paint is usually topical coat. So that's
The vapor transfer.
yeah, it usually results in less maintenance.
Well, look into that. Can you put us on the agenda for the 28th?
Yes, and that will be did I just give somebody, losing my agenda? Oh, here it is. Yes, and that will be a voting session as
All
well.
right,
It will
thank
be
you very
posted as a
much.
voting session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nay.
Um,
124, speak
This-
Don't
I'm just
don't see
gonna
them
put-
here.
no, 124 is,
Okay. So,
so
are we
let's
talking
go
about High
back
Street?
to High Street,
2123.
2123 High Street. Oh, wait, sorry, hold on. I have your-
By the way, I'm gonna take off at 10:30 because I think it's
Okay.
so I can stick around.
All right, so we need to,
If there is a workshop.
It's
Alright,
only a
just-
workshop,
Yeah.
so if you need something, that's
okay, talk to us about it.
Do we have a vote, or-
Yeah, sure. So, 2123 High Street, we're proposing to insulate continuously the entire envelope of the entire house to bring it well beyond code energy efficiency. So, and we're also proposing to have a very small addition here to even out this jagged, because it's been adding on over the years. So we propose to kind of build out so it's flush. You'll see in the new construction drawings. So and we're proposing to for all the historic elements, we're reusing as much as we can, and if we can reuse the existing one, we'll replicate and put it back where it was. So the siding will be the same exact siding product that's on the house right now.
Wood.
And that is a novelty siding.
Yes, smaller board spacing compared to our office.
So as you can see in the plan, we are, this much is the addition area, it's very small. And the second floor will follow the same footprint as the first floor, so that we have a corner, not a different walls meeting with the existing. So, and we're also proposing a new balcony on the second floor in the back elevation. So, and all the gutters, leaders will reuse as much as we can, and will match the existing.
Which is copper.
All the windows will be new, exterior windows and doors, and will match the existing.
I guess looking at existing as opposed to proposed.
So you're also adding a new sliding door on the second floor to go with that new balcony.
Yes, also, new, windows.
All right, so you're filling in this piece here.
Yes.
Windows are the same, doors are the same. This is all 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 the same. So that's basically it as far as the exterior, it's just this little piece.
And we're cleaning up, there's a tiny side light, and we're proposing to just fill those. And making the door a little taller, because right now there's in the sunroom.
Where's that?
In the sunroom elevation. So currently, there's this door. It's hard to see in this photo. So on the plan, on the HD 02.1, there are these tiny side lights here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the
They're
proposed
being
plan,
filled.
we're closing that. And then the door right now is falling short of the window header, so we're proposing to bring the door up to that header height.
And then you have new skylights in that roof.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The existing door, you're making the existing door taller.
And eliminating the side
Yeah.
lights.
This door taller to match its windows,
That.
and we took out the side
The
lights.
side lights on either side of the existing door.
So
Okay.
that this reads a little more uniform to that.
Right. I think the first story volume seems to make sense. I don't think that it's out of scale or anything. Bringing that line forward. The second story, the second story seems a little boxy, and I just looked on the plan and realized that it's because your shower is there, so you can't have a window there. So it does seem a little stark, and I don't really know how that can be softened. You know, obviously on the front facade you have this like woodworking up here and everything. Just don't know how that can kind of be softened, but it's also, you know, I mean, it's so rare that you would really be seeing it kind of dead on because the next house is sort of here. I don't know if that stood out to anybody else. This is what I'm talking about. Just how the second story of the addition.
Yeah, in other words, all of this.
Yeah, and you know, this, because the shower is here, you know, this can't have glazing in it, or can't have clear glazing in it. That's the only thing that just stands out as being, I don't know.
So all the second floor windows on the east elevation are raised.
Yes, these windows, because they're so close to the roof line,
Mhm.
we are proposing to raise them 6 inches. And one, because.
Are they the same size as the windows that were there?
Yes.
Yes.
And with the historic shutters as well. One other note that we would like to make is that because all the siding needs to be replaced, or this is a perfect opportunity to do an energy efficiency improvement. So when we take the siding off, we would like to insulate the house from the exterior
Mhm.
and put everything back. So these are in poor shape. The cornice, for example, is in a poor shape, and so we would replicate those, reuse it if we can, but we would replicate,
The profiles
Exactly.
in wood.
yes, in wood, in painted wood.
Okay. How's all of this carpentry on the porch?
Oh, those will stay.
Yeah.
Those will stay, and we'll insulate from the bottom as much as I can and take, prior to putting the siding on.
And is that gonna change the depth, so to speak, of like these corner, like is this whole facade gonna have to be pushed forward to accommodate the,
It moves forward a little bit, but hardly any impact there. We will have to remove that bracket and pull out, for
Okay.
example. The chimney will stay as it is. We couldn't get ourselves to enclose that in stucco. It just didn't seem
Right.
right. And so that gets pulled out a little bit. The transition, I think you may see a little bit of a shadow line there, shadow line at the bottom, on the, what's that, north, I'm sorry, what's that?
South.
South.
That's west.
The fireplace is into the sunroom, not into the living room.
The fireplace is facing the living room. What's going on there? That is a block,
So this is
a chimney, that shaped.
yeah, that's
yeah.
the brick part, and then this is open to the living room.
Okay, so in other words, the
Oh.
chimney's here and this is a brick arch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it's not an arch.
Can I answer?
Yeah, yes.
So a long time ago, that was a porch,
Mhm.
an open porch, so
Right.
the fireplace is inside where we enjoy it, and then on the rear side is what you would see outside a house, but it's now enclosed in the sunroom.
Right, it's
Okay,
like this,
but
but
I-
on the other
yeah.
side.
But is there an opening in the brick there?
No.
In other words-
Not on
Oh,
this
you know
side,
what's-
only on that.
What fire extension is, would
Yeah.
help, yeah,
I mean, normally there is a,
hard extension.
right, something like that, and this would be like that, and usually this is closed off, right? Am I not correct that this is solid masonry,
Yes, that's
Yes.
solid masonry, yeah. So I think it's visually not represented.
okay,
um,
all right. But that's neither here nor there, because that's.
That's
inside.
inside, but it's, as an
That's-
architect, I know, it was questioning,
Um,
it's questionable.
I guess my concern is this. As a sunroom, it read as a sunroom, because just looking at this elevation, you can see this is all glazed, this is all glazed. And then this becomes a little awkward because I can see where these little side lights continue the image of the
sunny-
glazing all coming across.
Right.
Which I think is lost, and do you have any radiators or any heating elements in the sunroom?
Not a thing.
So, in fact, insulating it is not really gonna add that much because you're not, if you insulate here or to the inside, you're better off because you're then containing the heat in the house as opposed to the sunroom.
But Al, you're
But it
looking at
would
the
be-
existing plan, not the
I
proposed.
know, the
But we'll open it up,
proposed,
yeah.
I know, well, that's what I'm saying, is that, in the proposed,
This is the proposed plan.
oh, it's all open,
Yeah.
okay.
But I think to Al's point just about how that door is treated, is the door too short? I mean, is the door too short? Is it not the code or?
No, it's just
It
visually,
doesn't match the window.
we thought that
Right.
was.
That it's caught in a weird spot. I wonder if just from the increasing the opening of the door, but increasing the overall opening of the door, but instead of having it be, maybe trying to do something with like a door with a transom over it or something, to make it seem more like this airy sunroom, like Al's saying.
Well, the transom, I mean, we do lose efficiency with the transom and, it's more added fussiness, because there's not enough glass area. So that, I mean, we don't have to raise the door height, we thought that it just cleaned up that
Yeah.
elevation.
Yeah.
The side lights were fussy, they were small, so in modern profile, it's hard to replicate that side light.
Because even if it's
thickness of the
fixed,
frame.
because even if it's fixed glazing, it's still is going to take up too much space.
Yeah, and so, and we didn't wanna, start moving windows, we were just trying to work with what we had there. So the side lights are hard to replicate with the modern profile.
Mm-hmm. And are these windows? Are these
I'm sorry,
sliders?
the side lights are what?
They're, by the time we put in the modern frame, the glass is just,
It's only 5 inches, so with the frame, there's no glass.
there's no glass.
So then, in
I can see
fact,
that would be a problem.
what we see is gonna change.
It's just-
Because the windows,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about these windows.
We
What you're saying is
can-
that the frame is going to be much fatter.
A little bit, these will be thicker, but not these mullions, these will be.
The muntins?
Muntins would be, 3/4.
But
And they're,
increasing the width of the frame on a window of that size is going to be much less perceptible than on a window that's only 4 inches long.
Well, agreed. The only thing is that, I mean, the overall aesthetic here on this particular corner is that a glazed-in porch that had been open at one point.
and there are
And
sliders.
it's going,
I
it's
see what you
going
mean.
further and further
It's
away
going
from.
further and further away from being an open porch.
Yeah.
Not that it's becoming
But-
not that it's a sunroom that's being incorporated into the rest of the house. It's now like 2 steps further away. I see what you mean. That, I mean, I think we also need to be aware of the recent history of this house wherein this has been a sunroom. So maintaining the look of a sunroom, I think, is as important as trying to maintain the look of a porch that's been closed in.
Think,
Okay.
I think, I mean, our clients will be happy to have that sunroom aesthetics, right? Am I
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I don't think that's an unreasonable request, so maybe we can find a solution.
Well, the thing is
To
that,
figure out how to fit that in.
Is that, let me ask you something else. Is that door, oh, that's the door that goes to the parking?
Yeah,
Yes,
the-
yes.
So it's pretty important to have a door there. As opposed to another set of windows
Right.
to get that corner that Al's referring to.
well, and I guess, you know, the question really is that, as far as the layout of the space, is there any possibility that you in fact go for vestibule and, you know, deal with insulating this wall and then have a vestibule here? I'm not sure as far as the layout of the space. It seems like this becomes a little bit of awkward space on the other side of the chimney.
Right,
I mean, you know, how do you put furniture goes there?
Well, I don't know if that's really.
I'll figure it out, don't worry.
I mean,
I'll
we
figure
do,
out the
are
furniture, don't
focusing
worry.
on the exterior representation, correct?
yeah, I think we can find a solution, to maintain that airiness. What's this one right here? Is this a shelf? I can't.
What goes on in the tenant space? Is that just their space?
Where's, I'm sorry, where?
The tenant space on the first and second floor, is that just their space?
It's not, we just,
Or is that just not part of the scope?
It's
It's-
not part of the scope.
Is, yeah, there's a kitchen with a new window.
The other thing, just, you know, something to mention, and it has nothing to do with the approval here. This vestibule is open, but it's still a vestibule. One of the biggest heat losses in buildings is infiltration.
Mhm.
As soon as you open the door, you probably bring in more air than, you know, you lose as much energy as you probably save in a whole year with insulation.
By not having a second door, you're saying?
Yeah,
Right, okay. Let's just focus
But-
on,
but that's-
so
that's-
let's
yeah,
focus
that's-
on what
let's
we're
focus.
talking about though, which is,
When in a well-insulated, airtight house, we're told that we don't need vestibule, but anyway, but.
yeah. I think just dealing with this corner, you know, to Al's point is, and my concern as well, is just finding a door that is the right,
Configuration.
I mean, maybe it's a door that's wider than that's there now, so it takes up the space that the skylights, that the side lights are containing, and it's this kind of wraparound look of the glazing that I think is what is
Charming, yeah.
is charming, and to
Yeah.
me is what's kind of being interrupted with this new with the new door. But other than that, I think that the you know, raising the heights of these windows and doing those types of replacements for the efficiency are you know, an appropriate way of updating the building. Can we talk about the addition in the back? Or should we talk about the balcony first? Since that may be a short conversation.
But the insulation and cladding is on the exterior,
Correct, exterior.
which is the same as you did in your office, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it won't be the overhang
It
that you
won't.
have, will it?
Yeah, it won't be as deep.
As deep,
um,
yeah.
I guess, I find it unfortunate that this thing winds up being added on top of that corner. The original construction was relatively simple, and it had this essentially a wraparound porch which went around the entire house, or at least two facades. But it, you know, I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. It just,
That's why we were continuing that roof eave line to kind of break up the volume.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways the first story of the addition is not to me it seems really appropriate for the space, just continuing that line straight across. I don't think it's going to be too stark or too much of like a foreboding wall. I think it's sized appropriately. The thing on the top, it's kind of complicated because your roof, you know, you're having this sloped roof that just goes back. It's not like you have a more fanciful roof structure where you can add things moving in different directions and kind of look like the way that it already has been added onto, you know, with these shed roofs, and have it be any sort of a usable space.
Yes, I know what you mean. The perfect example is Jennifer Zwerg's house, where there are many additions added on, but they're sloped roofs, so you can kind of hide and integrate.
Or I was thinking of the house, Eric and Eliza's house in front of the church, where it's the same thing, where there's like all of these things have been added onto it, but because overall they're able to take on these different roof materials and different roof shapes, it doesn't seem that strange. But I don't know, I would just need to kind of get an idea of like how visible it actually is from the street and how far away it is, and I'm sure there's probably another example of a building that's the shape that has a addition like this. I just can't think of one.
So if I may confess, we had a different version where
Ooh,
we had a
okay.
tower that came up, but this looks far better than that.
A tower that came
Well,
up?
it's
better.
Like a
this
turret?
whole thing, like
Oh.
this was out.
Yeah, and so it's a great improvement from that. So if you can picture it from that point of view.
Okay. Let the record show that draft one was crazy.
We should have started from there, actually.
Yeah, I think so. That would have been cool.
I don't know what else to say about it.
you know, it is going to be quite visible.
No, I'm not disputing whether or not it's going to be
Well,
visible. I'm questioning whether or not it's going to be prominent. Is it going to be the type of thing where you kind of see it for a split second when you're walking past the house and only when you're in between the two houses? Or is it going to be the type of thing where it looks like a very modern addition?
See, essentially what we're talking about is this winds up coming out here and then up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're sort of filling in this entire corner.
I would also need to I would need to go down Church Street and see how visible the back of the house is, really.
Well,
I don't-
I guess the question is that this looks pretty, I mean, this space, can it be oriented so that the portion that is facing the street is minimized and it's added more to the rear? Or is that pretty much filled
It
in?
was pretty difficult to put the program in there. So this
What-
corner.
What if
It's this second floor bathroom, that's what we're trying to get in there.
Yeah, but that, what if in that second floor bathroom, you had a slight slope to that roof? So that it's not quite so looming.
But the problem is that the roof's already sloping back towards the back garden.
Yeah, well, the issue is
But
that
does it
you've
have
got
to
this deck here. So in other words, if this was weren't
No.
rectangular like so.
Because I think everything on the first floor shows this
Onto
kind
the
of
back?
sloped roof, but
Yeah, but I mean,
On
I'm
the
thinking
second
that
floor,
here you got this
everything
slope
is,
here,
uh,
and this
I
slope,
think that-
and
I
if
don't
you
know
had
if that
that
would be
sloping
good.
a little bit like that,
Mhm.
which
Oh,
would also, I mean,
you're
if
saying
you
so that it
did
can
that,
remain
you'd have
in,
to,
I
you
still
know,
don't
do
think
sort
that
of
would
like
be
this
usable.
and,
You're saying so it can
Right.
remain
you
in
know,
this
so,
plan?
I mean, that's.
Well,
what the
it doesn't
ceiling
have,
has
in
to
other
be,
words,
or what
fine,
happens here
I
on
don't
the
have
plan.
any objections to something broken out.
Yeah.
But this is, you know,
I'm not sure
it's sort of in your face.
I think
Yeah,
the thing that
check
makes
the
it very
backside
strange
of
is
the
that
house
this
with
is sort of
really low-
like
Get the
the
toilet
sweet
right
spot
there.
of a length of wall
Yes.
that should have a window on it.
We didn't want to not
You know what I
have
mean? Like if it were
Yeah, well, yeah,
just,
no, it's-
if it were
you know, it's
just a
where you-
little shorter.
Well,
then
that
it
kind of has
just
more to do with
seems like a
alignment to the
natural
lower floor
extension.
too, so
But
from
the
the
fact that
exterior,
it's
you
this wide
see,
and
you
doesn't
know,
have a window on
Yeah.
we
it,
have
it makes
the,
it seem
you know, that rhythm
like,
of the
I don't
punch
know.
opening.
It makes
Yeah,
it
well,
seem like
so-
you
a
know, I
tower,
understand
Yeah.
it's
like
a
a,
window, and it's also probably.
Well,
yeah.
where
oh,
plumbing's next to them.
We were wondering if we could just articulate that box a little bit better so that it feels a little softer. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, if you could give that maybe a little slope. Cause it is a bathroom on the upper floor, you might not need that much ceiling height.
So
I don't know what the ceiling height is there anyway.
if we could just articulate this box a little more with some soft touches, we're thinking maybe, that might help break up.
Soft touches, you were thinking of like lace.
Put a giant doily on it.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
You mean using timber, using, some sort of trim or something to
Right.
divide the wall? Yeah, I was just saying to
Or
Al,
think,
it's like,
or look at the layout again and see if there's a way that we can bring a window here, and not in the shower.
right.
I don't
I
know,
mean, I
because
know
I mean,
you
it's
probably
having
wanna
a
have your
window in the
bathtub
shower.
looking
View.
towards
I
the
don't like it
line.
if it's frosted glass,
You know, if it's frosted or it's not.
We have frosted glass right now, and if you walk past, you can see us in our
Shadow line.
But is it that like cling film frosting?
bathroom. No, it's.
Oh, it's the real deal.
So we squeeze that window in there so
Mhm.
that doesn't look too stark, and we squeeze window there, even if it's over by the cooktop.
Mm-hmm.
We did that, and so I know there's a trim. We should show the trim at least. That kind of soft line, and I wonder what we can do there. I think that will make the ceiling height too low, but maybe we could. I mean, everything else about the house is very minimal, you know,
Mhm.
except for the front and this corner. Everything is minimal. The back is pretty stark,
Right.
and so we thought, you know, that we were kind of turning the corner with the same kind of language. So, I mean, yeah, I wish we could put a window there and call it a day.
Unless you can
Maybe
fiddle
this-
with just the layout of the bathroom.
How about a high window, like the way
Like
your
a
tenant
transom.
the tenant bathroom window, would that, I don't know, that doesn't go with any of the size here though.
Right.
Um,
What normally happens with buildings that are shaped like this? I feel like it's a very common front, but I can't think of what happens with additions on the side. I guess it would be like done as a bay window maybe, and it would be, instead of square, it would be angled. I think that would probably be the only way that it would really be treated.
Put a tower on it.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. You can put a turret in it. The house on, the brick house that, you guys just put that breakfast room on, is that porch, does that porch have something above it, or is it just?
No, that's exterior.
Carpenter.
Yeah.
One on Main Street, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the porch, there was nothing above it where the,
No, not where the breakfast
yeah,
nook is.
okay.
We might be able to,
You,
if we were
you
to
do that.
shower over into this corner. we have
Knock
enough
off
wall
the
space
corner.
to
Chamfer
Keep
the
the
edge.
window out of the shower, and then maybe
Yeah,
look
I mean,
at the
that's-
sink
that's
and
an
the
idea.
toilet
I
and
mean,
tub
I
in a
could-
way
I
that
could
we can
probably-
add a window here.
Just to,
Yeah, I mean, if adding a window there could help.
take a look, let's take a look. Yeah, or your other suggestion was, what if we move that
It
whole
would be difficult to do
landing,
anything on
the
the
land here,
like to have it not
and
blocked.
then.
Well, okay, because this is all part of the residence, right? Because this bathroom is also a shared bathroom,
Yes, it's shared,
right?
yeah.
Oh, I see, rather than being an ensuite, yeah.
I think without getting too drastic, that maybe this is, take a look at it, because certainly this seems to be a very big shower. And
Well-
I think,
Part of it is the clearance of the toilet too,
Yeah, we are squeezed there.
and you don't, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a,
Can we get to the other stuff that,
Yeah, we'll
It's
come
not
back to that.
yeah, come back to that?
well, the only other
later.
element is the balcony on the back, which I have no problem with.
Yeah, I have no problem with that either.
And I actually think it helps make the back seem a little, less,
We'll put a balcony for your bathroom.
yeah, put a bathtub on the balcony.
A shower, an external shower.
instead of
We could have
a
an external shower.
tub,
right.
a hot tub.
Hot tubs are so fun.
What were the other elements on here that you were? Build new balcony at the west side of the house, re-insulate and reply the walls. Replace all existing interior doors and windows with high performance.
You do?
Okay, optical illusion, okay. Okay, they do line up, okay.
And and the windows are, is the cut sheet for the window in here?
Yes, there's a high performance double.
Not a cut sheet, but still, actually I have one more update. So this is a product we're looking at. And it's all wood, double pane.
And this is
Oh, this
the,
is, the all wood, hopper window.
Mm-hmm.
Who makes this?
Uh,
this is Icon or
this,
this is,
these two are Icon and that one is the alternative one, which they're the same,
similar?
material, they're all solid wood, actually, I don't know.
Okay, so we would just, if we could just see the cut sheets for, so you're saying that this is what you prefer to use, but you want this approved as an alternative?
Well, it's just we're, trying to get pricing
Right,
comparison,
okay.
so we don't have that yet, but.
That's
the-
fine, if you just bring the cut sheets for both of them, then we'll be able to, we could potentially.
Well, that and also the sliding door that you're adding here at the
On the
balcony.
balcony.
Oh, yes, we
Yeah,
can
and
get.
just, well, and all the man doors are being replaced as well, all the people doors.
Right, the entry doors, we started to look into the articulation of that and then the light fixture too, that's coming as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Great, well, I mean, this is a great feedback as a start, and we'll see what we can do about the box. I mean,
Right.
in my opinion, because the backside is kind of boxy, we thought that the wrapping around wasn't so terrible, and we thought it's one of those things when you just pass by, you know, you won't notice,
Yeah,
let's see, on the photos, so,
It's on the back side of this.
we thought we were doing a good job of cleaning it up.
should we have him here?
good.
Yeah, it's sort of, I know exactly what you mean. It's like you're cleaning up the back corner of it,
Yeah.
but that's the corner that you don't see.
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
what
I-
you do see is
Well,
the side that
you
is like
see that
this
on
problematic
the
side, you know?
You do currently see that from, was it, Church Street?
From Church Street, okay.
So we are cleaning it up.
Yeah.
So we thought it was an improvement.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's definitely.
Actually, you can see most of the backs of most of the buildings on High Street are all the way down to like Fair Street or something.
Yeah, there's like these weird spots where you can see
Yeah.
it. When we looked at Andrea's house, we would have pictures from
Yeah,
all over the village.
and you go to the church parking lot, the little church parking lot,
Yeah.
you can see everything.
John Zubik's got two really big trees that kind of camouflage.
Yeah,
the
they
house.
keep you hidden.
Two big spruce trees.
I've never noticed the back. I used to live on Church Street, and I've never noticed the back of this house enough that I would identify it. So, do you want to come back on the 28th, or do you want to come back in September?
When would you,
Um,
28? I know we're eager to at least,
28th works better, we're away in the middle of September.
oh, right, 28th. So I'm out on 28th, but Dee and Carl can be here. And so we'll, maybe those two, items are just making sure that we still kind of maintain the charm and the airiness of the sunroom, and then the box in the back.
And then just the cut sheets for the
Oh,
doors
right,
and
cut
windows. Even
And
if
then the doors and the lanterns.
even if you feel like you need more time to work on that volume, if you just want to move ahead with the windows, we can
Right.
look at those and approve those
Okay.
in
Right.
August, just so that that portion of the work can start, 'cause that's a big portion of it. Yes, that's true. I'm sure there's a long lead time. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I guess too, if there's any way that you can, just to Al's question, if there's any way that you can find out how much the framing is gonna change, just on those multi-pane windows.
Right.
I mean, I think judging from the overall size of them, it's gonna be imperceptible, but we
Yeah,
know what to expect.
Yeah, we can, yeah. Do that next.
Scoot, because I feel like showing.
They're waiting out there.
I'm scooting, so it's just the two of each.
Okay, we'll review it with them. Thank you.
These are,
Oh, that's
That's
from the 15,
15
that's
Main
for my
Street.
notes for the minutes.
Yeah, I saw the two of you walking
Do you
down.
need any of this for notes?
I know where they're going.
Why don't you take one that's full over?
Okay, so, oh, is this my phone? Oh. Okay.
So for the workshops, do you want to turn Michael loose?
Please. Yes. Sure. I don't know, what are we gonna do about
Good night,
124? We're just gonna have to tell them.
Yeah.
Back. Okay.
So is your meeting ending now, or?
No, we have two workshops that we're gonna be looking at for Butterfield, but, well, you know what, this is
Just
building much.
Sean, whenever you finish, just shoot me an email and say whoever made the motion to end it at what time.
But that just said, say, with the workshop, all we can do is just bat around ideas. We
Yeah,
can't really
we're not
vote
voting on
anything.
anything.
Certainly with only two people,
Oh, Carol's gone?
yeah.
Yes,
So the meeting's effectively over now?
yes, we're just going into workshop.
Okay.
It's a late night for you guys, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Ray.
Okay, so we'll deal with 124